tardes. I'd like.
I have us at 4:59 still.
Oh, okay.
He was just notifying us that we're
Oh,
live
okay.
now.
Like I have my. Okay. We'll wait one more minute.
Got to keep it legal.
That's true. Here we go. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. I'd like to call this meeting to order.
And before we get started with the actual content of the meeting, just like to welcome everyone that's out there virtually. This is our very first meeting not being on Google Meets. We've introduced a YouTube live stream for everyone that's out there. So those of you that are watching virtually, thank you for being here. The biggest difference between that Google platform and this YouTube platform is that although this is a live stream, it's a little bit on a slight delay. So the Google allowed for the personal interaction. So if there were a community member that had a call to the public, they could have sent it in to Ms. Nye to read, or they could have presented it right there. But starting with this live stream, all calls to the public will be received either by Ms. Nye or will be delivered by community members here in person. So we'd like to welcome you to our new platform for these governing board meetings. And I'll turn it back over to Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Robert. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We will stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, yay, my favorite part, district announcements. So the Solano Point of Pride recipients, Bridget Murray, Martha Serrato, and community partners, Gabriel's Angels.
Yes, and we'll welcome Solano's principal, Lisa Norwood, up for both a presentation to the community and also for a celebration of their points of pride.
Good evening, governing board members. Should I start with the points of pride?
You can, why don't you do your presentation first and then we can move into points of pride. Whichever makes more sense for you.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Got it. All right. So we will start. This year is our first year back with 21st Century. So I decided to highlight one of our clubs that's going really well. It has the kids excited, but also has a visible presence on our campus, and that's our garden club. This sign has been at Solano for a while. This is the garden over on Missouri Avenue, facing the streets. And so our garden club is led by our first grade sped teacher, Miss Ragsdale. She was excited when she was hired to actually see the gardens that we had and to see that we had the large garden on Missouri Avenue, but then also had the gardens inside. So she has been working in the gardens actually since before the 21st Century program, just as a volunteer. So this is what our garden bed in front of the office looked like over the summer. The weeds, or we called them sunflowers because it looked like they were sunflowers, but I don't think they really were. They had grown as tall as me. So that's what it looked like before Miss Ragsdale started working out there. And then this is the garden area on Missouri that was also overgrown and had not been tended to since before COVID. And then these are some of the after photos. So the picture on my left where the flagpole is, that was the same picture that I showed you previously where the weeds had grown high. So they've cleaned that area out. And then this is the other garden bed just right to the south of the office. And they've cleaned that all out as well. And we had some donations from Home Depot. And I'll show you that in just a minute where they donate some potted plants. But here's some other after photos where the kids and Miss Ragsdale have been working hard after school to clean that out. They made huge improvements. And then these are some of the garden students. They made a thank you sign to Home Depot for the potted plants and flowers that they have given. Ms. Ragsdale has formed this partnership with them, and they are willing to just keep supplying us with flowers and plants throughout the year. And they have like a garden program where they do support schools. So she's working with them to kind of keep our garden alive at Solano. And that's pretty much it. Any general questions for me about Solano and things that are happening at Solano?
No questions, just a comment. Thank you. Looks beautiful. So it's only in kinder and first grade that Ms. Ragsdale works with the students?
Say that one more time.
It's only kinder and first grade that Ms. Ragsdale works with students? Is that correct?
Yes. No, well, no, it's the garden club is kinder through sixth grade.
Okay.
So it's a mixture of students. And then she also, during the day, she uses her K-1 students as part of their class time. They do work in the garden, but the after-school program, it's all ages of kids. And so you see some of the older kids helping the younger ones maneuver some of the equipment and dig through the weeds. So yeah, they're working together.
Thank you.
Any thoughts on expanding and, you know, building more over there at Solano?
Yes, she's working on that. Because we also have, what do they call, plant beds in between the buildings, the corridors of the campus. So those are like the next project. But first they're working on the beautification piece, like right out in front of the office, and then planting some vegetables in the garden on Missouri. But then
Very cool.
her idea is to have the classrooms adopt the beds that are in between the corridors because there's enough for each class.
Wonderful. Well, thank you and give her our thanks as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of work as a gardener myself. Like I remember it takes a lot of work and it also takes, the participation of the teacher and the students, and sometimes that's really hard, especially when teachers already have a lot to do. So kudos to her. Sustaining a garden is hard work.
And she has, I mean, she comes in on the weekends and she does a lot of work too, but her teaching the kids what to do and the meaning of that. And so she's excited to even show them about growing vegetables and then eventually like using those vegetables with their family. So, and I believe Solano at one point had a farmer's market. So I kind of shared that with her. So that's the goal, is to get back to that so that the community and the families can take part in that as well.
If I'm correct, we used to have the food corps, right? A volunteer, an intern from Peace Corps Food Corps that was.
No, our partnership with Food Corps has completed, but we do have something on the agenda from our child nutrition department today. So you'll hear about that a little bit later in the agenda. But the work that was begun by Food Corps continues within our schools, within our gardens, the maintenance, as you know, the maintenance of the gardens, as well as the garden to table initiatives. And when Corey's up later, you'll be able to have an idea of not only what his newest person that he's bringing in as an intern will be, but any particular questions about continuation of that work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Do this now or wait?
Pardon?
The
Oh, yes, you're ready. If you're ready for points of pride,
Okay.
we can move on.
All right. So I'm excited to share our Osborne Point of Pride. Our staff members voted, and I'm super excited to award both of these to our staff members, but then also with our community partners and the work that they've done with Solano over the years, and even last year, especially during COVID, they were real active. So yeah, I'm excited. So our first recipient is one of our first year teachers. And this one, it really makes me proud because she is new to Arizona. She moved here without anyone, and she's had a pretty challenging year with some of her students, but she shows up every day with a smile on her face. She's always encouraging other people. I told her she encourages me just by the energy and positivity that she brings to our campus and with her kids and interacting even with her parents. So I'm excited to award our first Solano Point of Pride to Bridget Murray. And then our second Osborne Point of Pride from Solano is a staff member who has been with Solano for a while in the district for a while, and she was nominated for just because she's always there. She's helpful, no matter what you need, she's there. She's always positive. Again, always smiling, even when she is having to clean up behind the kids, like she still has that smile on her face and she's still doing it with pride and with joy. And we really all appreciate Miss Marcia Serrato. All right, and then our community point of pride goes to Gabriel's Angels. And my understanding is that they've been in the district for, they've had that partnership for quite a while, but I was really impressed last year when we were all working from home or behind closed doors, and they were still willing to partner with us and provide that support to our students. And so they worked it out with Mr. Nelson to provide even some online support to our students using the dogs. And then when we did return in March, we did have some students in the labs in the independent labs that were able to take part in the program still. And then this year when we returned to in-person, they were one of the first people to contact us and say, hey, we're ready to come back and provide that in-person support. So they are still working with our students, and our students look forward to having them on campus, and they have a special surprise for our students next week, and I'm excited to see that. But I'm not sure if you have our Gabriel Angels. They are not here. Okay, so I will share these awards with them, but we are very appreciative of them helping us out at Solano with our.
Thank you. Yeah, and we got to meet some of the dogs when they first came on board, and I was really happy about that. So I can just imagine what it's like to be a kid and have the dogs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norwood. And for those of you from Solano School that were recognized, hang on. As soon as we're done with celebrations, we're going to pause the meeting for a few minutes and get an opportunity for pictures and for our governing board members to be able to thank you for your amazing service. But as we continue, thank you, Ms. Norwood.
Thank you, Ms. Norwood.
As we continue with celebrations, there are a couple more celebrations that I'm going to turn over to the governing board president to be able to present. Last night was what's considered the county meetings from the Arizona School Boards Association, and board members and myself were able to participate in those. The Arizona School Boards Association, besides our regular membership with the association, provides professional development opportunities for our governing board. And at the annual county meetings, that is the opportunity for the Arizona School Boards Association to recognize governing board members for their continued learning and professional development. There were a few presentations that were made last night. It's so hard when it's done in a virtual setting, in a Zoom box, to be recognized. So we wanted to take the opportunity to stop this evening and for our governing board president to recognize our members. And board members, anytime that you're talking tonight too, just grab the microphone and bring it close.
It is my honor to present these awards to my new board members. It's a pleasure serving with you. We will start with Mr. Juan Flamen. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then Mr. Edward Hermes. Your
Thank
last
you.
name.
Yeah.
I always butcher it.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
Felicidades.
Gracias, gracias. I feel like I just got here. I don't know if I deserve an award.
You all deserve it. And lastly, Mr. Luis Peralta. Well, it's amazing to serve with them, so I'm really grateful to be here. And this is the easy part, just giving them an award that they really deserve.
The next two awards are during celebrations. I've had the opportunity to talk about different things that are happening here within the district, wonderful accomplishments, kudos given to staff, as is done by both administrators at the school site, at the district office. And I had an opportunity to talk about a couple individuals for quite meritorious service to the district, to the community, to every single member of our Osborne community that benefited from their work. And the governing board wanted to stop to be able to recognize them. And so I'll turn it over to our board president once more. So this is on behalf of our entire board, our superintendent, and our community. Thank you very much for all that you do. This award is for Diana Vargas. And the next award, same. Felicidades, Claudia Segura. Thank you very much again. When we stopped to recognize these two earlier in the year, there was pretty much round the clock service being provided. And we've all worked extremely hard over the past 18 months in response to pandemic, to whatever our community needs. And lots of people have put in tons of hours. But sometimes we just need to stop and recognize when you see an individual go above and beyond. And we may not have done that all the time and given out lots of community thanks to everybody for working so hard. And sometimes we just need to stop and say, look someone in the eye and say thank you for extraordinary service when it's provided. So the entire Osborne community, the governing board, are very grateful to the two of you for how much you went out of your way, and it literally benefited this entire district and every single individual. And so we're all very, very grateful for the countless hours of work that you guys put in earlier this year. Muchas gracias. And felicidades to my board members.
Gracias.
And muchas gracias and felicidades to you as well. So now we will take a break.
Yeah, we'll
And
take
we-
a quick minute for for some pictures. So anyone that received anything tonight, don't go anywhere so that we can capture some pictures of you and your accolades with the governing board, and for members of the board to speak with you and thank you for your work.
Yay.
And for all of you logged on to our YouTube channel, just hang on tight. We'll be back in 3 to 5 minutes to continue with our meeting.
Delegate, buddy.
Thank you. I wanted to pop on and join y'all, but
There was, they elected whatever director of it over.
Yes, sir, you do.
There was, like, we were electing some director of role, but only one person ran, so.
Right.
I didn't have to do anything.
So I got, two are looking to hear as
Hello, I'm okay. How are you? Yeah. Oh, no, that's okay. It just throws it all off. I know. No problem. Hey, Michael, tomorrow will you be able to come in here to access this, the recording? Absolutely. Turn on. We haven't set everything up. Okay, give me that message.
About.
So,
I know. We got a whole fancy little.
the recording,
Yeah, I know.
just record. Look,
It makes work collaborating hard.
Not actually my first choice, but I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, we don't want to turn it off.
My
no,
district's
no.
like, you're getting what we're getting.
You get what you get, you don't throw a fit, right?
I wanted to.
My kids, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna record. Kids use that a lot. Or actually, we learned that we learned that from them because that's something they use at school.
Yeah, right.
Just
Yeah.
that's why I was concerned.
So my kids, speaking of Halloween, one wants to be Spider-Man, a Spider-Man ballerina.
We'll figure
Don't know
it
how
out.
we're gonna pull that off.
Hey,
And Paw Patrol is
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol is still
Before we
big.
gavel back in, can you guys just all pull your microphones way closer?
Yep.
And having your mask on, so since we're masked, you gotta be super close to your mic.
All right.
You got it.
That's it.
Yep.
Ready, guys?
Ready.
Moving back into the meeting, moving on to the consent agenda. Better?
Yes, so all the items of the consent agenda are presented. We request approval as presented.
Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, the call to the public. Ms. Nye?
Yes, we did receive one call to the public, and it was via an email where her comments were emailed in, so I'm happy to read those.
Please. Thank you.
The comments are from Anne Ferroli. Good evening, members of the board. First, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to publicly comment. I am Anne Ferroli, representing Copper State Academy. I am a parent of 2 Osborne students and an educator. As a parent, I have chosen to send my children to 2 Osborne schools. We reside outside of the district boundaries. I have made this decision because of Osborne's commitment to each of their students' success. My experiences with administration, teachers, and staff have demonstrated a sincere commitment to teaching the whole child. Ultimately, these leaders take genuine joy in what they do. When the time arrives for my children to decide where they would like to continue their high school education, I would appreciate making an informed decision. As a family, we should receive information about the wide range of learning opportunities that are available across districts, charters, or private institutions. Ensuring parent and student choice can only be made possible if choices are provided. I am requesting to share our learning opportunities with eighth grade students and their families. Copper State Academy is a small neighborhood charter high school located at 1212 West Camelback Road, 85013. Copper State Academy provides a rigorous college prep core curriculum along with specialized business and design electives that are engaging and relevant for the 21st century workplace. Copper State's design curriculum offers visual arts courses that are not available in large district schools. We pride ourselves in continuing involvement and growing partnerships with the artist community. Through this relationship, students can develop their skills, hone their craft, and understand grit. Students will build a knowledge base that prepares them for life choices as post-secondary students, consumers, employees, or business owners. In addition to sharing our learning opportunities with students, we are also inviting community leaders, artists, and small business owners to provide structured and vetted real-world learning experiences for our students, guest speaking, job shadowing, mentoring, volunteering, demonstrations. A successful and meaningful education is composed of permitting parent and student choice, input by community members, and real-world application of the knowledge and skills acquired by students. For these reasons, I would like to thank you again for providing a strong education foundation for my children and the opportunity for Copper State Academy to share its academic invitation to prospective families and community members. Kind regards, Ann Ferroli, Copper State Academy Chair of Student Opportunities. And she has her contact information included.
Thank you, Lisa. And we thank Anna Ferroli, and we are unable to make any comments as a board, but we thank her comment. Anything else? No?
Can I make a point of order? And I wasn't sure about it, but I believe our new policy, BEDH, about public participation prohibits unsolicited services from the public. Is this something that might have fallen into that?
You know, it was mentioned as both an address to the governing board about, you know, in gratitude and thanks for the work that was done, as well as the secondary part, which was the request for sharing that information. And so I do think that we need to take a look at where the comment to the board separates from solicitation, and separate those, or make modifications to public comments that, you know, when there's something that looks like or you know, extends beyond just public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the board presentation, COVID update.
Yes,
Dr.
so
Robert?
as a regularly scheduled update to the governing board throughout the pandemic, I just wanted to take a couple minutes. I'm not going to be as exhaustive as I have in past meetings, but just to talk about a couple measures with our COVID protocol and things that we're actively engaged in. One of those that our our administrative team engaged in conversation about outdoor events at schools. We have not had community events in Osborne the entire school year. We made the decision early as an administrative team that we were going to not have community events happening on campus until at least fall break, and then look at the situation of what's going on within our community and determine whether or not we're ready to start having events on campus. And so one of our first conversations was, if we're going to have any type of community event, that it would need to be an outdoor event. So we don't have anything in terms of a community event at any particular school that's been planned yet, but there have been some requests. So part of our conversation was about what would be the limits of capacity. Even though we're outdoors, we should still be making sure that we're able to maintain proper social distancing. That's appropriate for outdoors. Second, looking at the need for all types of mitigation strategies. So if any school were to, between now and a full opening to unrestricted events on campuses want to propose any type of community event, it would first need to be presented with what the mitigation strategies from capacity to outdoor social distancing would be before anything would be approved. In terms of vaccination and boosters, this kind of goes along with the idea of vaccinations for younger children. We're very excited about the meeting that is going to be happening next week through, I forget the name of the organization, through the CDC that meets is it the ACIP? That meets to make determinations on moving forward with vaccines. So there's been a request by the Pfizer-BioNTech group on having vaccinations available for ages 5 through 11. The request for emergency use authorization of the vaccine will be considered next week and hopefully approved. In my regular partnership meetings with the Phoenix Union umbrella superintendents on Monday, we had representatives from both Maricopa County Department of Public Health, as well as different pharmacies for how we would begin making services available. We're anticipating approval of this emergency use authorization next week. Takes about a week before it can be deployed out into the community before we're able to get the supply in, and the pharmacies or the clinics are approved for administering. We are hoping that if all goes well with the ACIP meeting next week, that we could be mobilizing for vaccination clinics in early November, within the first couple weeks of November. Now, as any time that vaccines are approved, there's initially a rush towards, and then things taper off. We are going to be working with both within that Phoenix Union umbrella, as well as our close partnership that we've had with Native Health throughout this year with doing vaccine clinics at schools, for having the availability for vaccinations for ages 5 through 11 at our school campuses as soon as approval comes through. So we're looking forward to that. We recognize that this is going to be our ticket to normalizing as much. I don't want to use that term because that doesn't. I don't know that there's necessarily a return to normal, or what we deemed normal before. But it will be our ticket towards easing any mitigation strategies that happen, so that far greater interaction, interpersonal interaction, can start to happen in our schools, invitation of our community back in. We're going to need to see much greater percentage of vaccination. We're super excited to have more than 90% of our staff vaccinated. I would be even more excited to see 90% of our schools vaccinated. That includes students, and I'd love to see it among our parents as well. So we'll be continuing all of our efforts towards bringing vaccines to the community.
Will we have the vaccinating people come to each school so the kids don't have to be taken from Enchanto School to Central High School or something?
Right, that's our goal. When we started this summer with, and thank you to Mrs. Hayes for all the work that you did last year and making the vaccination clinics work so smoothly at Osborne Middle School. That was just a delight to see our students coming up at their community school to receive their vaccine. That is our goal. I think that we have done an amazing job as a school community of building a sense of trust about how we're going to move through this pandemic. Our families have come to rely on us and trust us in being able to follow through with promises. And if there's anything that we've fallen short on, I believe that folks have let us know, and we've done everything to ameliorate that as quickly as possible. Because of that, I think that our community schools are going to be the number one place for our kids, for parents to be looking. So part of that message out to parents is, think about it now, be ready, because when the word comes out that we can bring vaccines, we're going to do it. It'll happen really fast. We're able to mobilize this quickly. We were very successful with our prior vaccine clinics. And yes, Ms. Corbin, we will have the vaccinators right there, but parents are going to need to bring their kids in. I've got each principal thinking about what that would look like, best time of day, after school, weekends, during the day, evenings, whatever is needed. They're going to try and get the pulse of their community so that we can be able to meet that need.
When do you expect plans to be rolled out? Keeping in mind that we may not know exactly when the vaccination will be available, but when will we be able to communicate, okay, at Encanto, here's how it's going to look like. It's going to be Wednesdays after school and weekends on Saturdays. So giving the framework so that when the supply is there, people have already planned for it.
Sure. That's why we've begun the conversation, a month in advance with our partners. We had the conversation with the pharmacies. I've already been in touch with our folks at Native Health, and they're going to be prepared. So we'll be able to communicate how and when we're able to provide the vaccine based on the supply that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they know the regular schedule of the supply that they have, we can start setting up our vaccination clinics. But in terms of what the flow will look like, we have great experience through OMS of knowing exactly what that will look like, what the setup of the facilities will look like, how much space we're going to need between signing in with the paperwork, the vaccination, the rest area afterwards for medical staff to be overseeing so that it's a very smooth flow. The big thing is going to be, what you're asking about, far enough communication out in advance so that folks go. But we don't plan on this being a one and done opportunity. So one thing that we have been able to see through our partners at Phoenix Union is through regularity. Now that, we know that at North High School, you can go on Tuesdays after school, for the month of October and November. They're planning on it running all the way through December. So they've set a schedule. In the beginning, though, it's just get the vaccine out there. Let's try and get as many people as quickly as possible. And then after that, set up a sense of regularity for those that make the decision after the fact that they want to come in.
Has there been thought about next steps in terms of what kind of metrics, what kind of numbers would you want to see before starting to loosen some of those restrictions and mitigation efforts that you discussed?
So we've talked within our team about what kinds of numbers we'd like to see, but our schools still exist within communities. So we not only need to see the high vaccination numbers in our schools, but we need our community to follow suit. Our goal, my initial, when we first started doing vaccines with staff, I was hopeful that we'd get over 80%. We superseded that and we're at 95%. I think currently we're at about 92.5%. That's a public health dream, getting those types of numbers. The initial numbers were that, what do they call that? A herd immunity, the possibilities would be if you get more than 70%. I don't like minimum numbers. I like shooting for something greater than those minimum numbers. So my initial and our initial conversations are that we'd like to see greater than 85%. But I'm not just going to go by if we hit that 85% number, then we start taking off masks. Not if the numbers that we start seeing because our kids are on our campuses for those 7 hours that we have them, but they live in our community.
Yeah.
So we are going to do our job to lead our community. I think that everyone that we've made it available to has demonstrated here within Osborne that we have not only the desire, but we have the follow through to be leaders. When put to our school community, 95% vaccination rate shows that we are willing to be leaders and that we'll follow through with that word. We need the community to follow suit. We need everyone around us to vaccinate. We need our parents to bring kids in. But we're not going to lessen those mitigation strategies with a 30% turnout. Not with community spread as high as it is right now. Not with 2,500 cases a day still. So we're not only looking at our localized context, meaning the 650 kids on a campus, but they live in a neighborhood of thousands.
I completely agree. When the kids come in to get their shots, is there going to be the ability for, let's say, parents who have not yet been vaccinated to also get their shot?
100%. Yes, it's
Fantastic.
not just a kid clinic, it's a vaccination clinic
Wonderful.
that everyone that meets the criteria for vaccination can get vaccinated.
Um,
So that's our goal, is that it's going to be open to the community, not just Osborne. We're going to spread word. We're going to have, sandwich boards out saying vaccination event happening today so that people in the community driving by can see. I got my booster last week, and I had planned on going to a particular place, but as I went to pick up my son from high school, they just happened to be, I saw that sandwich board as I was sitting on 12th Street there. Oh, I'm just going to drive around the front and go get my booster today. So putting that word out, and as I sat in there, one of my former students from when I was principal at Encanto School was sitting right next to me, as well as a woman that lived in the neighborhood that saw the sign. So it just really goes to show that the effect that the impact schools can have on their greater community.
Yeah. What does the vaccination rates look like for our middle school, where the kids at least 12 and older are eligible to be vaccinated now?
Ms. Hayes, do you have an idea of that right now? Well, yeah, and we can work on that, on getting that exact number in reaching out, which, by the way, is a spectacular number for starting off. And I think it's only going to go higher, as time goes on. And then as we see the younger kids, if the middle schoolers weren't able to get to that, 80-something% number, maybe when we see the little kids coming in, that we can just, we've had a pretty extensive talk within our administrative team on preparing for the vaccination drive. What are we going to do to motivate our community?
Yeah.
So we're having those conversations, and I'd love to be able to say that we've got that 80% vaccination rate. We know that we don't have that at the middle school yet, but we're going to start building up even more.
Wonderful. On the first topic you talked about, the events, the school events, I really appreciate you bringing that up, and something that, schools are more than just the 7 hours. It's the community, it's the events, it's the parents getting to meet each other, building that community, all of that. So I'm excited that events look like they're going to be coming back in a cautious and safe way. I know Phoenix Union is doing some things and requiring vaccines or folks to be vaccinated to come on campus to participate in, I don't know if it's athletics or events generally. That's something I would be in favor of. We're well within, our rights, and well within, I think, the CDC to require those type of things. So, I don't want to micromanage what happens from campus to campus, but that's something to be thinking about and to look into. I would much rather have, safe, fully vaccinated adults going to events than just not have the events at all.
We've seen the first schools that have set forth some types of mandates. The universities are leading in that arena. It hasn't moved down into the K-12 world in terms of mandates towards vaccination, but that conversation's moving forward. I think at the federal level, the requirements as with Arizona being an OSHA, that whole idea of employers greater than a certain number of employees and vaccine mandates. So the courts, I think, are going to tie that up for a little bit, but I do think that we're going to see higher rates of vaccination come, and we're going to do our part within that.
Transportation and access being an issue for some members in the community, has there been any discussion about looking into and assisting the community at large to get to vaccination points? Do you see that as a need within the district? Is this something that might be something we can help with?
Yeah, it very well can be, and it has been thus far within our partnership under Phoenix Union. Anyone that has, and it was on all of our paperwork that was distributed, as well as the communication, was that Lyft provided free transportation to vaccination clinics. Now, the way that was done under the Phoenix Union umbrella was that they contacted Phoenix Union to get the coupon code to be able to put in when they called for a lift. So we do have those means. We can talk about the potential for, we don't use district transportation to transport adults. But in term, we use it for bringing our kids here. But we can explore.
Is that a policy issue or a legal issue or a liability issue?
More of a liability issue.
Okay.
And so that's why having the partnership with Lyft, it was a really good option that we don't have to reach into that realm. But
Okay.
But not every parent, especially like my mom, wouldn't be able to use Lyft. She doesn't know how to use applications like that. So I barely know how to use it. So those are the barriers sometimes within our community, is that if you don't have a smartphone, you're not going to be able to order a Lyft.
So part of that was didn't necessarily have to be the individual, but assistance was given in communicating with the district. So I can get more details on how the steps that were taken for arranging for those rides.
I think perhaps where I'm going at is that sometimes it may be like a simple thing, but that simple thing could be the one thing that prevents someone from going. So removing as many, even if it's a simple thing of, even so I would like to see, since we are a central part of the community, and people look to us as sort of an important part of the community, seeing what can we do to reach out to people and get them, both students and parents, to get people vaccinated. It could be just, it's in our self-interest as a school to do so. So I think that we should look at, especially once the kids are able to be vaccinated, be aggressive about reaching out proactively to parents and just making beyond emails, beyond newsletters, but perhaps a more targeted approach, a more human approach to do that. And I wonder if budgets are an issue. I know we have some ESSER funds that are still available. And I think this perhaps might be something that's appropriate for that. Is just just helping remove as many barriers as possible.
Yeah, and I think that we've, throughout this entire pandemic from day one demonstrated an amazing ability to pull all of our district resources, departments together. There were lots of things on day zero that were ideas that by day one we had already broken through a lot of barriers, and if the barriers were there, they were gone by day 5 or by day 10. Each day throughout, each step that you plan, you may see an impediment. So lots of forethought and preparation has been put into these vaccination clinics thus far. But sometimes it's just getting started.
Mhm.
You need to get started and number one, trust in your ability to mobilize. This team that you've got out here are amazing mobilizers, but they're also keen observers. That's what we do as teachers. We observe, we modify, we adjust as we go along. You try and think about everything ahead of time, but we also bring our humanity into this, and that humanity and that personal touch comes first with heart and wanting to help solve problems with the community. But I think they've done a fantastic job of being keenly aware of where anything's lacking and doing good problem solving.
Okay.
That's what we're good at.
Any other comments? Thank you, Dr. Robert. Moving on to our administrative reports since September 15th meeting. Any comments?
I always appreciate reading the newsletters. I wonder if has thought been given to standardizing the use of Osborne District's new logo and designs across sort of newsletters and media to start building that brand awareness. Just I saw variations, so perhaps it's something to consider.
Yeah, so we in terms of the development of the logo and the style guide. If you go onto the website, you can see some descriptions of what the use of the logo is, and the different style guide. But in terms of reports and what newsletters look like, you're going to see some variation there. I try not to get into each school and telling them how to format, those communications with the community. But we, as we do have a new logo, looking for the consistency in terms of style.
And I think that's what I was going at. Not that they should all have the same flow or whatever, but I was wondering if the expectation is that eventually, like all communications that come from Osborne will look, or at least have that principal branding.
Yeah, we want to move out the old brand, use the new brand, and there are 4 different
Okay.
logos. One with the virtue or with the values, one without, one with just Osborne, one with just a symbol. So bringing in that new style and consistency there.
I wanted to ask about the enrollment report. This is agenda item number 7E. Just kind of drill down a little bit into this and have a bit of a discussion there. It looks like some decently sizable drops in enrollment at some of our schools from last year, like at Montecito from 85 to 58, which it's 27 kids, but it's big in terms of a percentage, and some sizable drops at Clarendon and at Longview. What could you give a little explanation or drill down and provide a little explanation on that? What's going on?
Perhaps not now at this meeting. With the question being asked, I can ask principals to do some investigation. But one of the first areas is if you see any drops in or changes. Number one, looking at the iSchool enrollment. You've got over 200 kids that are in iSchool, so you may have a heavier enrollment from one campus into iSchool than at another. Montecito being there are 2 sides of it. There's the special education side, and then there's the alternative to suspension side of things. And so that number is going to have fluctuations in it, because the intention is not for students in that alternative program to remain there.
Sure.
The goal is to get them back onto their main campus. So you're going to see some fluctuations there. But if there are any particular, what I can ask principals to do is examine any of those data. And if there's something in particular that they can speak to send that to me, and I can pass it on to the board.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No.
Is the suspension report something that's new in the board packet? Just I was trying to look for historical data, and I didn't see it. I guess last year, kids were not in school, so I guess there wasn't a suspension.
There's no suspension report last year because kids weren't there, but it's always been there.
Okay, are the numbers, do they look like average numbers, or I don't know if they look right? It just seemed like last month there wasn't that many, and now it seemed like a significant jump this month. I don't know if that's just something that happens every year, and then it sort of evens out.
Yeah, so we can take a look at that historical data and get anything to you to look at, in terms of being able to access prior board meetings and the governing board packets. August, you're always going to have pretty low numbers because, number one, we don't start at the beginning of the month. There was a week of August that we weren't even in school, and you don't have kids coming in and do any necessarily suspendable events right from the beginning, right? It's honeymoon period as everyone's getting in and to know one another. But as we get into a bit of a rhythm, normal things happen. Our goal is to have lower suspension numbers, and I will be happy to present prior suspension report numbers to you, because I think what you would see is that these numbers are significantly lower than what we've seen in years past.
Oh, okay. It was just a large month-to-month jump, and I wasn't sure if that was like a standard pattern or, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to action items, we'll begin with action item A, the approval of the IGA with ASU School of Sustainability.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Potter Davis and Ms. Bucklew from Longview School.
Good evening, governing board. We actually have one more guest joining us virtually via a video that she submitted. Caroline Saval is the Assistant Director of Internships and Experiential Education at the ASU College of Global Futures. And so she connected with this wonderful educator to my right to put together a really wonderful partnership. So we'll have Dr. Saval share first, and then we'll let Ms. Buckley share kind of the details of the program that will be coming out at
Thank you, Lisa, and we thank Anne Farley.
Hi, my name is Caroline Saval. I'm the Assistant Director for Internships and Experiential Education for the College of Global Futures at Arizona State University. Our majors studying sustainability and sustainable food systems are required to complete a credit-bearing internship as part of their degree program. So we're always looking for partners with local organizations who can benefit from the extra help and sustainability expertise that our students can provide, while the students can benefit or the students can apply their education in a real world context and gain some skills and professional experience and exposure to career paths. So I'm looking forward to partnering with the Osborne School District and Longview Elementary School to host two of our excellent students for spring semester. And I hope that we'll be able to continue to work together on projects into the future. I will be the point person on the ASU end, supervising students on this end when they enroll in credit. So if I can assist in any way or answer any questions about our students or our internship program, I would be happy to answer them. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
With our COVID protocol and things that we're actively engaged
Thank you,
in.
Madam
One of
President,
those
members
that our
of the
governing
board, Dr.
board- I'm
Robert.
sorry,
I'm
our
super
administrative
excited
team
about
engaged in
presenting this
conversation about
opportunity of this
outdoor
partnership with
events,
you.
at
I
schools. We
prepared a
have
little
not had
synopsis to read to you, and then if
community
you have any
events in
questions,
Osborne
I'll
the
be more than
entire
happy to
school
answer
year.
them.
We made the decision
In this
early as
partnership,
an
we will
administrative team,
create and sustain a
that we were
dynamic
going
outdoor
to
classroom
not
for
have,
learning across all disciplines,
community events
including
happening on
science,
campus until
math,
at least fall
language
break,
arts,
and then
cultural studies,
look at the
visual arts, environmental
the
sciences,
situation of what's
nutrition,
going on
and
within our
wellness.
community and
The
determine
program
whether or
will
not we're ready
advocate
to
for the teaching of
start
practical
having
life
events on
skills
campus.
and
So
environmental
one of our first
education
conversations
through the
was
use
if
of
we're going to have any
hands-on,
type of community event,
inquiry-based
that it
teaching
would
methods.
need to be an outdoor.
We also
So
will be creating and
we
providing
don't
an
have anything,
enduring meeting place for the
in
Longview
terms of
community to
a,
nurture relationships among students, staff, families, and surrounding neighbors through the creation of a sensory space that will be designed and implemented with and by our students. Any questions for me? Terrific. Thank you
Sounds
so
wonderful.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really good.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the IGA with ASU School of Sustainability Student Placement Agreement and the Internship Supervisor Agreement.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's moved in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, the approval of the MOU with Esperanza.
all right,
And
so.
just for transparency, I was a board member of Esperanza. I am no longer a board member at Esperanza. So, and if it makes my board feel comfortable, I just won't vote on it.
No.
Okay.
If you were still a board member, then you would need to recuse yourself, but no need to since you're no longer serving in that capacity. We were going to have someone from Esperanza here. They're not here this evening. They had communicated with Ms. Nye that they would be. But in the ask for more partnerships in terms of health, mental health, physical health, for our students and for our community. We've worked with Esperanza before. We're glad to bring back an MOU to work on preventive health measures. This work with Esperanza is not only for our students, but for our parents and community as well. If you look at the topics listed here on the board page, as well as within the MOU, some of this involves oral education, so dental hygiene, healthy eating. We know that obesity, diabetes, heart issues are a big deal within our community, and providing education for the greater community, for children, for their parents, for the community in general is fantastic. Stress management, cholesterol maintenance, different women's health issues. So they are a wonderful organization here within our community that is looking to partner with us to provide this to both our students and parents, and we request agreement of this MOU with Esperanza as presented.
And before we move forward, I will recuse myself just because I want to make sure, because I haven't looked at the website, but they may not have updated it yet. So just to feel comfortable, but the work that they are doing is incredible. I know that this work that we're going to engage in is local, and not because I was serving on the board. I would never serve on a board that doesn't align their values with mine, but just I've seen the projects that they've engaged in, from teaching people about nutrition and health, which is what we like to do in this school district. And I've seen their videos of what they did in Holliston Elementary with Dr. Hightower, and it's very valuable for our community. So with that, I will move forward with a motion.
I
and I'll
move that we
recuse
approve the MOU with Esperanza.
myself. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the University of New England unpaid non-clinical internship agreement between Osborne and the University of New England from intern Teresa Maza.
Yes. Good evening. All right. So Teresa Maza is a community member who reached out to me and was inquiring about doing her internship for her registered dietitian to sit for the exam with our school district. She has a undergrad, I believe, in education. The reason I'm excited about this internship is because generally when a person goes through an internship to sit for their RD exam, they have to go through they have to do three different areas. And generally, somebody would go through a child nutrition department to fulfill their food service requirement. Teresa is asking to fulfill her food service and her community nutrition through our school district, which would kind of fulfill some of those things that the food corps was doing while they were here. This is an internship, so there are competencies that for the university that she will have to fulfill. So it's not necessarily like the partnership with the food corps, where we had them 40 hours a week for the whole school year. She will be doing 80 hours for her food service rotation and 80 hours for her community nutrition rotation. So that partnership will run through January to June.
Very cool. I move that we approve the University of New England unpaid non-clinical internship agreement between the Osborne School District and the University of New England for the intern Teresa Maza.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so
Opposed?
much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Motion
sounds really
carries.
great.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of first review of revision to the following ASB policies.
All right, governing board members, over the past two meetings, you have approved a list of policies that were brought forth for a first and then a second reading. There were a list of policies that came out through the summer policy advisory through the Arizona School Boards Association that were not recommended for approval based on COVID-19 regulation, all due to the masking, non-vaccination. So the ones that I am moving forward with now for first reading are the ones that are related to immunizations of students, both the policy, regulation, and exhibit. This policy, when it first came to you over the summer, we did not read it. I did not bring it forward to you for approval because it mentioned things about there were masking and anything, not being able to bring up anything about vaccination. Anything related to COVID vaccines has been pulled out of this policy. This is now the statute-driven table of vaccinations that are expected of our students in order to be in school. So this is not COVID related, this is for regular vaccinations. We have always had a policy that has set forth a schedule for regular vaccinations in order to be in school. This is the updated calendar or table of expected vaccinations by age and by dose. So I'm bringing forth this one policy with its attached regulation and exhibit for consideration. And I'm requesting that this be approved as presented.
Makes sense. Thank you for the explanation. I move that we approve the first review of the revisions of the following ASBA policies: JLCB, JLCBR, JLCBE.
Is there a motion? A second? Is
A
there
second.
So move in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
All right, the next item on the agenda. If you were present at the county meeting last night, there was an extensive presentation made by the Arizona School Boards Association in favor of a bylaw change. In order for there to be a bylaw change, it has to be approved by the requisite percentage of members, and it has to be done so through a formal motion. The general background is that membership on the ASBA Board of Directors has included regional members of the Board of Directors as well as members of particular groups. So there's the Black Caucus that has its president as a member of the Board of Directors. Additionally, the Hispanic and Native American Caucus was written into the original bylaws, and membership on the Board of Directors has alternated between the membership of both the Hispanic and Native American communities. So there would be a president of, it's the HNAIC, Hispanic Native American Indian Caucus. So they would elect a president representing the Hispanic Caucus for 2 years. That member would serve on the Board of Directors. And then it would alternate 2 years later, and a member of the Native American Caucus would serve on the Board of Directors. Long recognizing the inequity of this, the Arizona School Boards Association would like to move towards equal representation for both the Hispanic and Native American caucuses. ASBA is, their Board of Directors is recommending this change. This has been brought to you. The board has had some discussion about it in terms of wanting it to be an item on the agenda, and so that's here for your consideration tonight. I and ASBA recommend your approval of this item as presented by the Arizona School Boards Association Board of Directors.
Is there a motion?
I emphatically move that to approve the governing board decision to support the 2021 ASBA bylaw change, creating a seat on the ASBA Board of Directors so that Hispanic and Native American interests can be represented simultaneously on the board.
Did you have a comment or a question, Luis?
No, I was gonna move.
Okay.
He just has been beating me all night.
A second?
I second.
And second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Approval of behavior attack.
All right, the next item is a job description that's being brought forth. We've had extensive conversation about the behavior tech position. It exists at all of our schools, as well as at Montecito Community School. This job description just shows the difference between that work that's being done at the campuses and at Montecito School. The placement salary grade of the position's also been revised to include an hourly pay differential. I don't know if Ms. Toscano has anything further to add.
Just wanted to point out that that hourly pay differential is for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, while the district's leadership looks at updating our comp study specific to behavior tech positions as well as other positions, so that we can bring back, the goal is to bring back a more permanent long-term compensation recommendation to the board. But in order to meet the immediate needs and valuing the current staff as well as recruitment efforts, that differential will be in place for the current school year.
So, Colleen, if I understand this right, if nothing changes, this has been a position that's been very hard to hire. And I totally realize that. It makes a lot of sense. But if we don't do anything, then they'd get a pay decrease after this year. Is that correct?
No, we would bring it back to the board at that time for a recommendation where then we were able to account for that within the salary schedule. So within our current classified salary schedule, right now we aren't ready to make that recommendation to the board of changing and adjusting the grade level of placement we don't typically make changes to our hourly or any of our salary schedules mid-year. And so we want to have time to do that compensation and determine where's the appropriate placement. And then at that point, we will look at where do then any current staff that would be continuing with us into next school year, aligning their adjustments to those new placements on the new recommendation that fits within then the structure of our salary schedule.
Okay, I think that makes sense. And I just thought it might be hard to recruit somebody for saying your salary might go down, in the future. So
Yeah.
Thanks for that explanation. That makes sense.
What's the salary range?
I can pull it up here. Give me a second.
So if I understand, it's whatever the salary range is plus an extra $4 differential. Okay. I'm not I wanted to understand how that works. So thank you.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the job description for behavioral tech.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last item.
Madam President, can I actually bring us back, Mr. Nilsson?
Sure.
Can you go back to item 8E, the one about the bylaw change with the Arizona School Boards Association? Thank you. Can you scroll down to the bottom? All right. Because this is a very particular issue, we want to make sure for the sake of the Arizona School Boards Association that everything that they've asked for in order to be able to change these bylaws is done. And so the wording of the motion is going to be really important. It's not approving it, it's giving direction to Ms. Nye to be able to make the change on behalf of the board. So Mr. Hermes, can you make the motion again, just reading the language from the recommendation?
Or it is recommended.
It's up behind you.
Yes, I can. I move, and it is recommended that the governing board approve the decision as discussed to support the 2021 ASBA bylaw change and the direction to Lisa Nye to vote in the manner the board has approved.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now moving on to the last item, approval of intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with Omnia Partners.
May I, point of order, did we skip G?
Oh, yes, we
Oh,
did.
yes.
I'm sorry. The approval,
Interventionist.
approval of job description of achievement interventionist.
Thank you, Mr. Flemond. And Ms. Norwood, if you come on up. Solano School is looking for ways to satisfy the needs of students, and so Ms. Norwood has created a job description, and I've asked her to present this to the governing board.
So this year at Solano, we recognize that some of our students in kinder through third are not quite prepared to be at school. So we've used some of our observation data, our FastBridge data, and then just anecdotal notes that we've taken and talking to the teachers as well about some of these students, and decided to create a different learning environment or an additional learning environment for them. So in the learning lab, the achievement interventionist would provide some targeted support for these students at various times of the day, focusing on academics and social emotional support. A lot of these kiddos, they don't have the basic skills for whatever reason to be successful. And inside of their regular classroom, that's too large of an environment for them to really focus all day long. So creating this learning lab gives them that opportunity at certain times of the day to just really have some focused attention on what they need academically and behaviorally. And so this lab would not have more than 10 kids, if that, at a time. And they actually, no more than 10 at a time. And the goal is for them to eventually learn what they need academically and behaviorally to go back to their classroom and remain there all the time, with just supports from the teacher. But right now, we know, and in order for them to be successful, we have to be able to provide them additional environment where they can learn what they need to keep being successful. Any questions?
And this position has been vetted through, significant work. Ms. Potter Davis sitting down with Ms. Norwood and her leadership team as they've crafted this position. And we feel very confident in the ability to move students forward through this position.
And this is, even though it's perhaps addressing a Solano need, it can be used.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No other questions, just a comment. Thank you very much for being creative, for both of you, for being so creative and innovative with this position. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the job description for achievement interventionist.
Is there a second?
I second.
I move it in second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Oh, you guys, well, so you can do the last one. Approval of intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with Omnia Partners.
Don't make a motion yet. You got to give us a chance to present it first. Then you guys can arm wrestle over that.
You might start doing that.
Bear man trap.
So two of our current cooperative purchasing groups that we are members of merged and formed with a third group, merged and formed what's now operating under the name of Omnia Partners. So they've asked us, we have still been utilizing all of those contracts under those previous memberships and have had access to all of those cooperative pricing and contracts, but they needed an updated agreement under their new name of Omnia Partners. And so that's the new agreement being brought forth tonight. It has been reviewed by the district's legal counsel and meets all of the necessary requirements to move forward. We will further be able to expand the contracts that we have available to us as this group merged with that third cooperative member purchasing network that we were not initially a part of. So now we have access to all of their additional contracts as well under this Omnia umbrella.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Somebody.
I move that we approve move for the approval of the intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with Omnia Partners.
Is there a second? It's been moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yay. Moving on. Thank you, Colleen.
Oh,
I'm
she's
just
not
gonna
going anywhere.
stay, so-
Discussion. Well, thank you for that part. Fiscal year 21 annual Mno Override report.
Yeah, so we have two annual reports before the board for information discussion tonight. These are required per statute, and there's certain components of each of these that are required to be presented and included in the public, in the packet for
for the public. And so that's why I want to highlight some of those items that are required. And you see some of those items being presented in a certain way because of the detail that's required in statute to go in there. Starting with the annual Mno and Override report, there is a page 2. The attachment to that gives the individual amounts. But the main purpose of both of these reports is to highlight for the board and highlight for the community how our expenditures align back to the original voter information pamphlet that was put before the voters when we asked them for authorization of our override and bond dollars. So focusing on the Mno override report, the total amount that the voter authorized Mno override provided an additional budget capacity in FY21 was just under 2.5 million, but you can see that those identified expenditure areas per the voter information pamphlet, the actual total expenditures was just over 3.9 million. So that 1.5 million, we're actually spending more than what the voters had authorized in that Mno override for those specific items such as library services, our elective programs, music, art, PE, gifted, English language learners, full day kindergarten, all of those items identified in the original voter pamphlet. That additional 1.5 million is being absorbed and funded through what's already included in our state funding formula. So our voter authorized Mno override is not enough to cover, so we're supporting those initiatives through our state funding formula as well. The current FY22 Mno budget override for the current year generates just over 2.3 million in additional budget capacity for this year. You'll notice that that's a decrease from last year's funds revenue that was generated, and that's directly tied to our drop-in student count. Are there any questions on the Mno override, the use, the voter pamphlet, items, before we move on to bond?
When does the current override expire again?
Oh, I don't have that off the top of my head. They are not on the same cycle. So when we went out for bond and capital, we did that together, and then we came back the next year for Mno.
17 was bond and DAA,
And then
18 was
18.
MNO.
And their year one goes into effect the following school year of that.
Okay, it's 7 years?
The district additional assistance, so the capital override, is fully funded for 7 years. The Mno override has a phase down component to it. So most districts will go out in year 4, so that if it's not voter approved, which I don't see that being a concern for us here in Osborne with the large support that we've had from our community over the years. But if most districts go out in year 4, so that you still have another fully funded year in case it isn't successful in year 4, that you can still go back out in year 5 before the phase down begins. If it's not reauthorized in year 5, then year 6, it decreases by a third, and then year 7 by another third until it's phased out completely.
So that would make 22-23 school year, year 4. So we'll be coming back to, that's next year. So we'll be coming back to you in the spring to be seeking authorization to go out for election.
The election happening in November of 22.
We went out in 18. It began in 19.
So in the spring, you're going to ask for authorization, and the election would happen in November of 22.
November 22. That's correct, right, Colleen?
I want to check that. It might be one more year pushed out from that. It might be 23, but yes, it's coming up very, very soon. And we will look at if it's to the benefit to combine them so that now they're on the same cycle, because one, elections are very costly and we have to pay for our election costs as a district. And so looking to combine them and maybe the right course that time when we come back in the spring to bring it before you for those decisions.
Thank you, Colleen. The next information item is FY22 annual bond and DA override report.
Yes, so similar to the Mno report, again, this is really focusing on highlighting the use of those voter authorized revenues in how they align to the original voter approved areas of the voter pamphlet. There's also some additional components, so you'll notice that there's Some of the attachments are a very long list of vendors, projects by PO and expenditure. That's meeting the requirement of presenting the capital improvements that are in progress and or completed compared to the original budget. So those long lists, I'm not going to go through those. Those are, you guys can read those on your own if you'd like, but they're just required to be there in the public packet so that we can demonstrate this was the original project, this is what's been expended to date, and this is what's still in progress. I want to highlight the voter pamphlets. So looking at the attachment, the first attachment there on the bond budgets by voter pamphlet, we had 3 key areas identified in our voter pamphlet. Those were the non-administrative improvements. So those are those improvements that we did through the bond that were at our school sites. Looking at student transportation and buses as the second area in the pamphlet, and then our administrative improvements, which were those items that were at the district office level or they serve a function, an extension of the district office. So a lot of like our network projects, those are administrative functions because our hub is here at the district office. And so looking at where we've expended to date, and then what's remaining. So we have issued all 50 million of our voter authorized 50 million that occurred at the end of last school year in the spring. And so you can see where we're at with remaining budget capacity, remaining cash. We have just over $3 million of remaining cash on hand in our bond budget, which is that last 3 million that we had authorized in the spring. And where those remaining funds are allocated, the majority of those funds are in technology, with some additional funds that are still set aside for a couple more buses, student transportation replacement vehicles that we had identified originally. Also, would like to point out that the deviation from the voter pamphlet is a very important number to be aware of as a governing board. Per statute, we're only allowed to deviate within each of those voter pamphlet categories by 10%. And so you can see where we are at overall in hitting and staying within that deviation allowance compared to the original voter pamphlet. The next attachment there is the district additional assistance table, which shows the capital override expenditures compared to the voter pamphlets. They had slightly different purposes or areas identified. They had broken out the non-administrative purposes specific to instructional technology and curriculum. So a lot of what the board has been seeing as far as curriculum updates, curriculum adoptions, new supplemental software, all those programs going in, those are being funded through the capital override. And so then we also had administrative purposes, and the capital override included preventative maintenance and improvements to facilities as well. And so looking at that trend, whereas the bond voter pamphlet had the entire 50 million broken out by category, we had set aside an annual amount. So you see the voter pamphlet budget there is the 1.5 million that is generated by the override annually and how it's broken out on an annual basis. And we need to make sure that we're staying within that on average over the 7 years of the capital override. So 1 year we may have, because the way projects are planned, we may have a specific item go over that year's budget, but that's why you see that far right-hand column is tracking the average. As long as we're staying within that average of what was set, when we average all the years of the override together, we'll be in compliance.
So over the next couple of years, there could be significant spending over the 1.5 million, as long as it still averages out by the end of it at. Okay.
Yes, and I anticipate that happening as we did not, you'll notice we have not, in any given year yet, the 3 years that the override has been in place, we have not spent the full 1.5 million that it has generated yet. And so I anticipate as we get closer, we're not losing those capacity. Those dollars are there, they're in reserve, they're sitting there in our capital override account, our fund. And so those reserves are there so that we're kind of saving for then another large purchase. That's probably looking like another curriculum adoption coming up and those things. So they're kind of being banked and saved
So we will have a couple years here in the future where we will spend over 1.5 million. And so as long as in average, we'll be in compliance.
So, I mean, beyond the, so it's 7 years, 1, 2, 3, so we have 4 years left. Like, have you done the math as to, like, on average, how much you have to spend per year to hit that number? Like, I'm just curious to know, like, what are we, like, I'm curious to know kind of like, how much money do we have left to spend? Let me rephrase that. What happens if we don't spend
if you-
$1.5 million every year?
If we don't spend the full 1.5 million over the 7 years, we don't, it's not a use it or lose it. So it stays there in your capital reserves.
Okay.
It doesn't revert in any way. So no, I haven't done the math because there is no, like, you have to hit this target. We just have to make sure that whatever our annual expenditures are being averaged with the previous years, so that cumulative or average is within the voter pamphlet annual guidelines.
Okay, well, that sounds good then.
The last item that's required to be presented is the district's use of the current year's district additional assistance allocation that's generated through the state funding formula. So that next page shows the funding formula. So this year's, the far right column there is the 21-22 funding that's generated through DAA, with our student count being just over 22,350 students from last year, and then looking at the per pupil that's funded at is 450 per student. And so then we have transfers that have been approved, recommended through budget committee work over many years, those transfers that are set to come and transfer funds from what's being generated in our state funding formula for district additional assistance or capital dollars to Mno to help support our salaries and benefits and health insurance and those other pieces. Costs. And so then the bottom line there that we're retaining for capital purchases from what the state funding formula is just over 280,000. Those funds are distributed to departments and schools for their kind of routine capital needs, furniture, equipment, replacements, upgrades that aren't part of the larger district initiatives through the bond and override.
Does that include locks? We have lots of them, apparently.
Yes, yes, that's an actual bond override project, but these would be some of those, smaller site-based, local, they have funds so that they're able to make those local decisions for each school, each department. Questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Moving on to board development.
All right, two quick things on board development. I cannot believe I'm saying the word December. But the first is giving thought to the Arizona School Boards Association and Arizona School Administrators Combined annual conference that happens in December every year, December 15th through 17th. Please send an email, or you can indicate now if you're interested in attending. You can send an email to Ms. Nye, or you can indicate here at this meeting. I'll also bring it back up at our regular meeting in November if you'd like to attend this ASBA conference. The second, and as Colleen just went through over so many financial items, and you guys over a couple sessions of our retreat that from September and carried over into October work study, got quite a financial primer from Colleen as well. Well, this can continue if you want to learn more about school finance. ASBA has a regular Wednesday webinar. The first one's already passed, October 13th, this past week. But November 3rd, December 8th, you can see our 2 more hour-long sessions. If you don't get the session live, you can get, if you sign up for it, you can watch the recording of it as well afterwards. And the final session's December 16th during the annual conference. So that's just an FYI for professional development opportunities. You can just follow that direction. If you can't attend the webinar live, you can receive that recording directly to your email as long as you register for it. So just go onto the ASBA website to register for that, and contact Ms. Nye through email or through a wave of your hand here at the meeting if you'd like to attend the December conference.
I am interested in attending the December conference.
And I do believe, Lisa, that's a pre-conference as well as a 2-day conference, or is the conference 3 days? Okay, so when it says the 15th through the 17th, that's for 2 separate events. There's a 1-day pre-conference and then the 2-day conference itself.
It's usually Wednesday, the pre-conference, Thursday, Friday, the conference.
Okay.
Is this one virtual?
No.
I do not believe it is, no.
This one's in
Oh,
person.
They're back to in person.
That might be rough for me, so put me as a maybe.
And-
Yeah, we've got lots of time, but is there, no, I think it's the same
I-
price regardless of when you
I'm
register.
available. I blocked it out just so I don't.
Oh, there you
I
go.
don't book anything there.
All right, that's it for board development.
All right, moving on to reflections. We'll start with Luis. Board Member Peralta.
I just want to say thank you to the community. I'm really happy that we have a community that's very supportive of us. I've had the opportunity recently to watch the district in which I work at board meetings, and I'm really happy we don't have 3-hour, 4-hour-long meetings because of other issues at hand. But I'm really just proud to be here because our community shows the strength we have. Our community doesn't fight. We have discussions. We group together, and I'm happy we have a board that even if we disagree on something, we are able to have a discussion. And I mean, tonight went smooth and easy, and I'm thankful for that too. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's always warms my heart to see the points of pride and the people who are getting awards. Probably deserve much more than the award they got today. But I hope everybody knows our appreciation that we have for you as a board. And it warms my heart to see. I think Dr. Weber almost said go back to normal, but thinking about things changing again and hopefully for the better. So I'm really excited about that future that's coming, and I'm so happy that our, Dr. Robert and our staff are thinking about how to make that future come as quickly and as vibrantly as possible, especially when it comes to the vaccine. So thank you for all your work. I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
I'm grateful for the continued partnership with the community, even as simple as something as a resident of the district who needs to do an internship, and that integration of the community through that or through other organizations. So that I always appreciate seeing how the school is not just a place for children to go to, but it's part of the community.
Being a past student, and yes, they did have schools back in my day. And my children all went through here, and I worked in the district office. I'm just so grateful for all the work that each one of you do. It's not a simple job. It's truly appreciated for the time that you spend, not only from the time the school opens in the morning till the kids leave. I know you're up there earlier, and you're back there late, and your weekends are spent on working on school stuff, and I really appreciate that.
Yes, I'd like to just add to the partnerships. I really think that they're so important to the health of our community, and seeing how we continue some of them and we bring some, and then also seeing how creative, our principals and our team get to create opportunities for our students also makes me really happy. But also celebrating our points of pride is something that I really enjoy. It's probably, besides seeing the kids present, one of my favorite things is celebrating our community, our staff, who's truly invested, and also celebrating my board colleagues. I think Sue and Dr. Robert and Lisa and I can agree that we are such a healthy board, and we're grateful for that. So thank you to my board members. And yeah, thank you to the community and all that you do, from, just ensuring that we're doing the best for our kiddos and being creative with everything that we do. Thank you.
Just to kind of close out the reflections, thank you, Michael, for getting this YouTube channel
yes.
set up.
Thanks, Michael.
It's kind of a new step that COVID brought to us. This idea of the community not having to come to us, but us going out to the community and doing it better. I think through the YouTube channel. This is episode 1. We're going to get better at it. If you get a chance to look at it, and you know, we'll go back, we'll look at it, we'll reflect on what we can do to make this experience good for the community. A couple things just so that you know before you go back. You're not the center of the screen. You're going to be in a bottom right-hand corner on the screen. The majority of the screen is what's up here. And this is about transparency to our community so they can see what you're talking about. So we're really trying to bring that forward. They can hear your voice, you know, when it's the beginning part where we have celebrations, you know, the camera's a wide lens on that. But once we get into the heart of the meeting, they'll hear your voice. We'll be down in the corner, but we want them to see what we're talking about. So we're bringing our meetings out into the community, and we also welcome the community to come in here and join us. But this is not, it started off as a pandemic response, but it's not going to stop. This is our way that we'll continue moving forward, and we're glad to take this next step.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for bringing us into the 21st century. Moving on to future agenda items. Luis?
I don't have any at this moment.
Neither do I.
I'd like to know more from legal counsel as to how vaccination requirements work. Can we add or subtract list from that vaccination list that I saw on the policy? Is that mandated by the state? Is there discretion by districts to add or remove vaccinations from the list?
For me, it would be for middle school to do a survey for the parents to see how many students were vaccinated. Obviously, they're voluntary surveys, so just so we can get an idea. And hopefully, once we look at that data, we can, and once we do that in the younger grades, we can do that in the other grades. But the middle school, I'd like to see the data from the parents if they're willing to answer the survey. And then also, I had the great honor of being at Helios today and seeing the work that they're doing. And it reminded me of the conversations that I've had during the pandemic with some of our families, and learning that some of our students didn't continue going to school because it was online and parents had to work and they just took their kids to work with them and the kids weren't going to school. So one of the big problems is identifying the kids who we've lost, you know, that have either moved to a different area. What have we done? I know that you guys received a report from ADE, well, the district did. What have we done, as far as connecting? And I know that there's a team here that was in charge of contacting the families, but how many of those families came back and how many of them did we never hear back from? I'd like to look at that data. And that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for staying so long. A meeting adjourned. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Thank you.